Love your hair, by the way.
Fantastic hair.
It's not quite the Jesus look I had going in Q2, but it'll do.
All right, everybody, welcome into another episode of the Meme Factory podcast. This evening we have Cory Klippsten, founder at Swan Bitcoin and part-time Kid Rock impersonator. Cory, if you want to take a moment and introduce yourself to anybody here who might actually not know you, go right ahead.
I'm pretty sure we all know each other from Twitter, which is all that really matters. No, we can dive right in, man. I've just been working my butt off on Swan for a couple years and hanging out with y'all on Twitter and having fun. And I think I've at least interacted in semi-intelligent and sometimes not so intelligent ways over the years. So glad to hang out.
We're happy to have you for sure. Now I know the first question that was on everybody's minds on Twitter. Usually we do a poll, see what anybody wants to ask one of our guests, and thank you for being a last minute guest here. The biggest question we got was, why is the swan white? Do you have a problem with black swans?
I think the swan is actually black. It was white.
I mean, it's I've seen it both ways. But
are we talking about it in the logo treatment?
This was the question. So
Understood. Okay. It's really just like, it's up to you what you want the swan to look like. There's so many different manifestations of the swan. The original logo was like the aggro, like, arms raised one. And then Jorn made us like the beautiful, like super swan S thing. Jorn is our UX front end designer. It's like a German dude. Anyway, so yeah, there's multiple versions out there. We even had like a proper animal swan that we were using before we had a logo. That was like a clip art of an actual black swan, the original. Yeah, that was like Q1 before launch of 2020. And he would like creep up on people in our memes and, scream stack sats at them and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yes, the swan is, in my conception, actually, we actually do have a drawing of like the character swan. So there's 3 characters that we created that I conceived of that Tommy from Bitcoin Magazine drew for us. We can animate them, and you can see the swan talking at the beginning of like early Swan Lounge episodes. Brecky actually animated it using sprites that Tommy created for us. And that black swan is like super tall, wears a tux. He actually has a British accent. I imagine that he would be played by Idris Elba. That's kind of my, I think that's who the actor would actually be. And the company name comes from basically the black swan from, Bitcoin enemy Taleb, but who doesn't realize that all of his philosophy is actually actualized by Bitcoin. Somehow has that giant blind spot. But yeah, that was the original one. It was Jan actually that really likes the kind of the white swan imagery, and kind of like the, Bitcoin was an ugly duckling and is becoming this beautiful swan, or, the swan is like friendly to normies and women and stuff like that, and they like white swans. So there's a little bit of that too.
Okay.
Do you remember
the movie's pretty dope too?
Do you remember the Goose Gang in late 2020?
I do remember the Goose Gang. I'm assuming that most of those were alt handles of you guys.
Yeah,
I think that was that the Canadian geese versus the US swans or something? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
We're not sure either.
Yeah, I don't know either. But someone on your Swan social media just happened to attack geese. Just like, don't be a goose, buy a swan or something. So I thought, oh my God, this is a setup for lighthearted humor. I was like, let's create a Goose Gang and have fun banter with the Swan folks. So yeah, we did that for a Goose Gang. So we did that.
I definitely dunked on some geese that month. I recall it
well. Honk.
Yeah, we got to break the geese back up. All right, so
sure.
Cory, I know you've seen an episode, so you know what's coming. We are broke here. We need somebody to read the ad copy for us. That's the only way we stay solvent.
Okay, great.
All right, I sent a copy of the ad copy to you in Twitter, if you want to look over it.
This sounds horrible for my reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's terrible.
Yep. This is going to be just...
Hi, Cory. So, sorry I'm late, guys. I was sending an email.
No. All right. Listen, I'm actually not going to read it before, so just so you guys know, I'm going to do my best cold read. As you guys may or may not know, long ago, I was actually a local TV reporter in Middle Missouri. on the local NBC station.
And then you got into hard rock.
Sometimes you would get, yeah, exactly. This was pre Yodel in the Valley. And yeah, sometimes you'd get a story added at the last second and you'd have to do a read based on what was coming up with the teleprompter. Very fucking, Will Ferrell style. So we'll see how it goes. All right, here we go. I disavow all of these words, whatever they are.
Whatever you need to say up front.
We're just going to cut that part out, Cory.
Perfect. All right.
He approves the message.
This episode of the Meme Factory podcast is brought to you by Swan Bitcoin, sponsors of any Bitcoin content we can find. Swan is at the bleeding edge of all things Bitcoin, and we are constantly innovating to deliver the best experience to our customers. The newest innovation brought to you by the big brains at Swan Labs is the sell button. A lot of our customers have expressed interest in taking profits out of their Bitcoin gains. That should have a Z. And you know what? Fuck them. We don't want those kind of people as Swan customers. When the customer presses the sell button, the website does the following. It moves all of the customer's core into their wallet and deletes their Swan account. No matter what the person does from here, they can never create a Swan account again. Now, if you're a discerning individual looking to purchase Bitcoin, consume educational Bitcoin content, experience white glove customer service treatment, and some of the lowest fees in the game, then come to swanbitcoin.com and start stacking today with a set it and forget it DCA policy of your choosing. That was not nearly controversial.
No.
That was just good ad copy right there. I'm firing Brady and hiring Greg.
Thank you for helping us
we
get
can now
paid.
have another episode.
Yes. Thank you,
Another
Cory.
test stream.
All right, so I saw you.
Sir.
You were in the spaces. Was it last night that Foss and Sailor did their thing?
I was not.
Yeah.
I missed it, actually. I may have caught like the very tail end listening. And then I started listening on the YouTube. So I listened to like the first 45 minutes last night.
Yeah, it was last night. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got triggered at one part where Sailor was talking about
Potatoes?
the yuan. Potatoes don't trigger me. I love potatoes. He was talking about the yuan, the dollar, and Bitcoin essentially living in harmony. And I know there's a lot of talk about him saying things he needs to say to keep his company doing the things it does. But I mean, as a Bitcoiner, it doesn't look to me like the USD or the yuan or any other currency is going to be necessary in the future. And I just want to get your thoughts on whether or not you think that's the case, or if you side with Sailor thinking that there's a place for all three to live in harmony.
Well, so Safe and Nick Bhatia, I think Nick had it kind of the thesis first and Safe had it separately. And then they both started talking about kind of like a soft landing for the dollar. And I'll treat the dollar separately from the yuan. I think that probably makes sense because if you're talking about purchasing power, obviously I think Bitcoin is going to increase in purchasing power dramatically. So when I talk about Bitcoin price in 2030, 2035, whatever, I'm talking about in today's dollars. So when I think about, a $5 million price target or $10 million price target or whatever, I'm talking about in today's purchasing power. I don't know how fast the dollar is going to inflate away. I think if we're at 5.9%, according to the official measures, and probably more like 10, 15%, something like that. If you actually factored in everything from fertilizer to real estate and all these other things, this thing appears to be kind of runaway. We'll see though. We will see what happens over the next decade. What I do know is Bitcoin is going to continue to rise in price. I do believe that the US government will, before the dollar is gone, adopt Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset, or like basically hold it with the central bank, and that will actually stave off the hyperinflation of the dollar, that they'll actually be forced to doing that. It's probably the most likely outcome. So they could coexist for quite a while. Like it may just be that there's enough power structure to keep it going for, could be like late into the century. Hard for me to imagine the dollar still being around in the 21 somethings.
Yeah, I would agree that there's a transition time, where both will coexist. But I mean, the end game, I don't see, dollars fiat.
No, the yuan is a total shitcoin.
Yeah,
and the CCP is basically the marketing team. Like they're the Ethereum Foundation, basically. Like they just have trumped up growth numbers to prop this thing up. They pay people off. They, hire the market makers and get it listed on the different exchanges and do the whole fucking, crypto token dance to keep that thing going. Like I think One Road is basically just marketing for their shitcoin. They don't act like it's not going to do anything. It's 40 times more expensive to ship over land than it is by sea. They just need something credible to tell Schwartzman and other private equity guys in the US mostly, and whoever else is buying their shitcoin, to not pull their card just yet, until we can grow a little bit more and like create a little bit more of a creepy dystopia to make sure we can control 1.6 billion people as they start to revolt. But they're gonna have a real tough time holding that thing together.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you agree, Craig? Are you satisfied?
Kinda. I mean, I understand that. I think Cory's probably got the right point of view here. I think Cory's right that there will be a interim where the shitcoin CNY and the semi shitcoin USD coexist for a while. I did like the point that I don't know if you gotten that far, but Sailor made a point that as companies and institutions adopt Bitcoin as a reserve asset, that the U.S. dollar effectively becomes a derivative of Bitcoin into the future. And I thought that was an interesting point. It might prolong the lifespan of the dollar. I don't know about the yuan, but I hadn't thought of it like that at all, the derivatives, because I'm not a math head. I'm a potato head.
You are a potato, Greg. Some folks in the chat are saying they're not going to like our stream until you say that you're a sexy whittle potato.
Whittle? A sexy whittle potato?
Hey, you can say little if you want. That's fine. They just wrote whittle.
Oh my god. I'm a sexy little potato.
There you go, guys. Like,
there you go.
like the
Enjoy.
You puppet.
I'll do anything for likes. You kidding me?
Hey, you know what makes me think about? So when we talk, I just started thinking about this right now. When we talk about like the dollar ending or any like state currency ending, I always think about, okay, it's the separation basically of money and the state. And so I think about like what did it take, or what did it look like when you saw like separation of religion and state? Like what did that take to happen? What needed to happen in that time? Is it going to be similar? I don't really even know. I just started kind of thinking about that right now, of what it took for that to happen and what was that process like, and is this going to be a similar process of when the dollar dies or however long that takes, or any state currency dies? It's really just a separation of money and state, because now we're using Bitcoin. We're on a SAT standard, so it makes me kind of think about what that would look like, or what that would take to happen.
So you're saying you want to see what it takes to happen to get to a SAT standard, or are you asking more along the lines of?
Well, because we were just talking about like, is the dollar going to coexist with Bitcoin and the Chinese, renminbi? All these things, are they going to coexist, or what's going to end up happening? So it makes me just think of what, we like to draw a lot of parallels a lot of times, and I know there's not a lot of parallels you can draw to Bitcoin because it's such a different type of technology. But I like to think about, okay, what could we draw like a parallel to within Bitcoin?
Fire.
Electricity.
Electricity.
I like to just like go backwards in history to like each big innovation and basically say like, you can decide for yourself as you get to know Bitcoin and get to think about the future, whether you think it's bigger than that, right? So it's like, first is like, is Bitcoin bigger than the internet? Like, is it a more important invention than the internet? And I would say, yeah, I think that for me, that is true. So then you go back and you're like, well, what about, the Industrial Revolution and sort of the harnessing of fossil fuels? That's interesting. Then go back another 300 years. What about the printing press? What about, representative democracy if you go back like 2,500 years? And then agriculture, if you go back, 10, 11,000 years. But it's on, there's 5 or 6 things that to me, maybe the scientific method, something like that, that came out of sort of like Renaissance Europe, but it's in that mix for me.
Yeah,
And it
I like to think about it too because I'm a basketball player, and the biggest debate all basketball
You are?
players have is Jordan or LeBron, right? Who's the GOAT, Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan.
And my conclusion is you can't compare one time because Jordan, what he did, it made it so LeBron could be who LeBron is. Like internet, without the internet, Bitcoin doesn't exist, you know? And so the internet was here and all these things, they just lead to another invention. And Bitcoin is the invention it's the best invention of our time, of our day. And I think it's the same. Like Jordan was the best in his generation. LeBron's the best in his generation. It's hard for me to compare because basketball is so much different. I think that's how I look at it too.
It's
I'm a
your
much bigger fan. I'm a much bigger fan of Jordan than I am of Jordan SV, but that's just me.
Oh shit!
Nice.
Someone in the chat saying Larry Bird.
Not even Jordan Cash. He called it Jordan SV.
Jordan SV. I'm going all
You went to the worst version.
Jordan Cass is Kobe Bryant, probably.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Isaiah Ryder is like Jordan Diamond.
Oh my god.
Way back. You guys are too young to
Air Force Go, I think.
Steph Curry is Bitcoin Gold. What?
Different
Air
kind.
Force.
Hey.
Steph
No, I was
Curry.
just gonna say that, yeah, Cory talking about looking to the past too. I love your guys' recent Swan video of looking to the future. Greg's doing the mirroring me thing again. That video, that short clip or whatever you want to call it, was phenomenal. And I think that embodies us Bitcoiners as absolute optimists. And I think that's another thing that pulls us apart from other, I don't even want to call it in the industry because they're just, as far as we're concerned, so far removed. But yeah, we are absolute optimists. And I love that energy that video brought. If you want to say anything to it, because yeah, I know everybody who's seen it loves it.
Yeah, I mean, it is really good. It's Bitcoin is generational wealth. It's on YouTube. Go to Swan Signal, youtube.com/Swan Signal should be right there. So Tomer Strolight wrote it and he narrated it. Got just enough gravel in the voice to sound intense, which is awesome. Louis Liu from Mises Capital, who's one of our investors and also one of the partners with me in Bitcoiner Ventures, funded it, and they got some great videographers and just kind of like researchers to find good imagery for everything. And it is beautiful. It's really well done. It's very Tomer, which is a very big compliment. Yeah, I love it. It's really proud of that piece. It's cool.
Yeah, your team knocked it out of the park.
Expanding in this subject, what's next for Swan? Like, I should make probably the question: when Europe, sir?
Well, we've been global since January, but only for wire transfers, just because dealing with the banking systems and the regulations for a smaller company like us is just way too much to deal with right now. And the vast majority of the money will come from, or has been coming from, sort of high net worth individuals and companies anyway. So we get maybe like 70 or 80% of the money with like much less headache outside the US. But, the retail business in the US is great. The high net worth business in the US is great. And we just feel more comfortable only taking wires, which are considered, final settlement by the Fedwire system.
So you're not
fraud.
Would you say that you're not like in a hurry to grow very fast in order, sometimes I feel like for startups, that's a little bit dangerous, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'd be getting out over our skis. Like, it really is difficult to deal with like fraud and regulations and banking systems when you are selling a bearer asset. And, there are other companies that say like, Square, which is $100 billion market cap or whatever they are. And they've got better algorithms developed over the years and their risk scoring. And so they're totally comfortable letting people, buy up to X amount based on their history. And they have all these lookalike audience things that they can trigger, and they may have like history of what they've spent on other things before they started buying Bitcoin, so they know a little bit more about them, blah, blah, blah. So, they might be more willing to say like, hey, anybody can randomly sign up to buy Bitcoin right now and can withdraw it immediately, and that's totally fine. And we might be like, well, you can buy up to $1,000 of Bitcoin, but you got to wait like, 7 days to withdraw it or whatever it is. So we're kind of developing all those rules, to make it easier and faster to be able to, buy Bitcoin and withdraw it. But yeah, when you add other regions and other banking systems and think about SEPA transfers in Europe, which, in the US, it's really hard to reverse an ACH is what we call it over here. After 60 days or after 30 days even is really hard. Even after 10 days is pretty hard. People have claims that go in their favor all the time because Europe is so pro-consumer up to like a year and a half later on SEPA transfers. So you really have to model that in a big way.
I'm curious.
I have to comment. We're memers. It's all about the visuals, right? So I have to comment the background. Like the Bitcoin logo gives you like a halo, like a Jesus kind of Max Kaiser, high priest vibe. And it's also locked up. So it's like in the cold storage or something.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. I think I'm supposed to eventually put just all scotch in there, which I probably will do. But
Scotch.
I love scotch.
I love scotch.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, this doesn't show off my my nice resin Bitcoin logo that Brecky made, and then I've got a
nice.
Swan
He's got a black
wine
swan. See that,
decanter
Greg?
up there.
I see the black swan up there. Yeah.
Black Swan.
It wasn't me asking the question. It was the internet people. It was the people of the internet.
Great
You see that, internet people?
You are the internet people.
All I understand is from what Cory said is that we've seen Swan Global before Strike Europe.
What I understood from what Cory said is that you're racist. That's what I heard.
Greg, can you
Only black swans here. Only black swans.
Greg, can you accidentally drop some?
Oh no! Look! Oh god, he got muted.
no.
Oh
Technical
no!
difficulties.
Oh
No.
god!
I got you, Sean. Hashtag before Strike Europe.
Hashtag before Strike Europe. They'll never go to Europe.
I'm curious
So
about.
I have to admit, by the way, that almost every day on Twitter, I get caught on Pedro because your image, whatever you've chosen here, looks a little bit like Pablo from our team, Pablo Fernandez. We're seeing Pablo F7Z. So I'm like, oh, did maybe Pablo got a new avatar? And I see the Pedro and the Pablo, and I stop for a second, and then it says something completely
Greg, don't say it, Greg.
And I'm like, that's not Pablo.
That's funny. Look, I get called Pablo all the time by people who kind of don't remember my name, and they're like, "Oh, hey Pablo, what's up?" No, it's Pedro.
Which is even more confusing because then we're like, nice podcast over there. It's a big podcast you got there, Pedro.
No, not that. Oh,
Wrong Pedro.
They don't all look alike.
It's the worst scrolling through Bitcoin Twitter and seeing people shitting all over Pedro, and then I have to stop. Oh, they're not talking about me.
Talking about McCormick.
They're not talking about retweet.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
Nope.
No.
All right, you said something about fraud and Fedwire being the thing that you want to use to make sure that you get final settlement. Do you guys have any plans in the future to start accepting stable coins?
No.
Good.
Cool. All right.
Next question.
We did. I don't even remember when this came up. I want to say it was my idea, but I feel like a bunch of us have had the idea. Well, we had the idea of at like some suburban grocery store or whatever, where you can dump your change in and get money out or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to figure out because we do sit on top of Prime Trust like Strike does, and Prime Trust and Fireblocks, the same stack, they do deal with all kinds of shit coins. So we're like, could we let people just at least sell their shit coins for Bitcoin? And anyway, it turns out it's very complicated to do it for anything other than Ethereum on that stack. But I think we are going to do that. So we're working on branding for that. We'll probably call it a reverse ICO. Or something like that.
I like that.
Shit recycling. We were also, so it's either reverse ICO or an IBO, which is initial Bitcoin.
The customer has to pay the gas fees, though, right? You guys are going to cover that.
Yeah, instead of a buy button, it should just say redemption.
Redemption.
Redemption. That's really good. Yeah, that's come up a lot. Like with John Ficori and his like Sunday morning clubhouse rooms with the repent shitcoiners and be saved and sing sermons and Dredd is always on there saying some kind of prayer in Jamaica. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, it's in that vein. There's a lot of rosaries and repent for your sins. Kind of
man, I wish that existed.
But yeah, so I think we are. I think we're gonna allow people to sell Ethereum for Bitcoin. Only that one thing.
What's
which is gonna be hilarious.
What's the final form for Swan look like? What is Swan end up an exchange? Does Swan end up ever being an app? What is
So the app is coming out like this month. So that's soon. That's happening.
Yes.
And we'll start putting all kinds of cool shit in the app, like all of the like formula buys will go in the app, all the content stuff will go in the app.
When you say formula buys, is that like the stuff where if Peter tweets about Bitcoin, we can do a buy?
Exactly.
Indicator.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I want to say Phil Geiger said if this then stack.
Yes.
Which is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so it's perfect. So yeah, the formula buys will be in there soon, and a bunch of other stuff that we're working on will all be sort of debuted in the app, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's interesting. I did want to give the punchline though before I forget this whole like Ethereum thing. Udi saw that on Twitter and he said, only Cory could tell everyone that he's buying Ethereum and the plebs would cheer him for it.
That's probably right.
True.
Oh, man.
So I like that one. I've been thinking a lot about it because, obviously like when you hit kind of the scale where we are and got, took on some more investment in August and having conversations about growth and like where you go next. And everybody seems to be doing like Me Too offerings in financial services and just kind of like adding at it more and more. And everybody's like, when are you doing Bitcoin backed loans? What about Bitcoin interest? Like, aren't you going to start payments? What about this, that, the other thing? Like, aren't you going to have a wallet? Don't you want to be a challenger bank? What about fucking buy shit on layaway? Like it's all fintechy type things that everybody wants to do. And my view is that no one has actually ever really figured out how to sell Bitcoin really well. Like it's marketed pretty well, but it's not actually sold by anybody because the crypto exchanges can't sell Bitcoin and they're the only businesses that are at scale, right? They can't have a salesperson that actually talks to like wealthy people, to family offices, whatever, to financial advisors to help them sell through to their clients and actually does that well. Because nobody can eloquently and honestly with high integrity, which is what is kind of required to sell effectively, represent 50 shitcoins and Bitcoin, let alone the fact that their compliance and legal department would never let them because they're all unregistered securities and you'd be exposing yourself to liability, right? So this opportunity that kind of opened up that we saw with the launch of private client services and adding actual salespeople like Stefan Livera and Steve Luca and Terrence Yang and Alex Stanzik and Ryan Flynn. So we've got these 5 salespeople that are just killing it, having human conversations, networking into circles where everybody's like, I got a Bitcoin guy, and then they pass it to like their 10 friends at the country club, and some guy in Dubai tells his friend in Bahrain, and then all of a sudden you're talking to those guys and like actually being able to pick up the phone and talk about Bitcoin. 99% of that conversation is about Bitcoin itself. It's not about like your product or your fucking service or your website or onboarding or any of that shit. Like that stuff is commodity. That stuff is table stakes. Having like actual Bitcoin experts that can sit down and answer your questions so that you don't have to go through like 10,000 hours of podcasts and books and all that stuff and can kind of just like get your own questions answered. It's a big deal. So I'm not going to stray and like add anything else until we crack that nut. Like we've had a proper functioning CRM, like customer relationship management software that goes like marketing all the way through the end sale for like a month. Like we just built the factory and like a Model 3 hasn't rolled off this fucker yet.
Oh, wow.
Like we just got started and we're like already at like $1 billion sales run rate. Like I want to see what we can do if we actually get good at selling Bitcoin. And then we'll add other shit.
It's kind of interesting because the old saying, I used to do some software sales back in my day, in between, after and before going on basketball. The old saying is, if you tell me enough the why, I'll show you the how, So that's kind of It's kind of like the education you guys provide. You're providing the why, and then it's like, okay, well now I can figure out how to buy the Bitcoin, and then you guys are also providing the way to buy the Bitcoin on Swan, so that's really cool.
Yeah, it's like Simon Sinek, start with why, man.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm always throwing up the whiffy, what's in it for you, because we can be very navel gazing, like we just want to talk about Bitcoin so much that sometimes we forget to tell people like what's in it for them. I guess the other operating insight that's governing a lot of the new stuff that we're doing is realizing that all of us in the Bitcoin educational space and all the Bitcoin companies have basically spent from the bear market through today mostly focus on why and how to buy Bitcoin. And I think that's like the middle of a Bitcoiner's life cycle that actually starts, I've been talking about build, preserve, enjoy. And the why and the how is really about preserving your wealth. But I think there's a lot more that can be done around building your wealth and then enjoying your wealth. And that's why we started Bitcoiner Jobs, because that's about like building your wealth and helping people connect with other Bitcoiners. And today it's
in the show notes,
45 companies. Sweet. Today it's like 40 or 45, Bitcoin only companies or mostly Bitcoin companies that are hiring Bitcoiners. But I think more and more you're going to see Bitcoiners listing jobs there where they want to hire Bitcoiners, even if they're accountants or contractors or whatever it is. They just want to trust those people, just like people that went to the same school will hire from their alumni network, right? So I think that'll actually start to happen. And then we're launching like a Bitcoiner marketplace that we're still working on the name for, but this has like all the different services that Bitcoiners have, like, personal training or untapped growth, shipping beef around the country or whatever it is. This would be a place where Bitcoiners can buy, maybe you got rich this cycle. Maybe it's time to buy a chair to make up for the one you sold, but you want it to be like a 7 generations chair. So you want it to be like artisan and super dope. You might want to buy that from a Bitcoiner. But I think the services thing, so like understanding like, hey, this set of lawyers is opting in and proving either via their Twitter or by, using LN off and, literally authorizing their profile through a Lightning transaction. Like jumping through that hoop should be enough to say like, hey, this person knows something about Bitcoin. I might want to take a call with that person over somebody random that I find on Google. Anyway, so that's kind of how I'm seeing the ecosystem develop. We want to turn Swan into something that just builds products and services for Bitcoiners. Just help the community grow.
You talked about a lot of income coming from, or a lot of revenue coming from high net worth individuals. What does that total addressable market look like for Swan?
I mean, that's basically all the money in the world. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, listen. It's so funny doing something in this space because I think you guys probably know I spent a good number of years in like startup land and venture capital, cutting angel checks and stuff like that. I was never actually a VC, but I used to cut checks into companies and advise a lot of companies and get startup shares and stuff. And in venture capital, you're always saying like, okay, I'm going to evaluate. Everybody always says like team, product, market. And then maybe the fourth one would be like timing. And so, product, you want to have something that's like differentiated. And you look at like Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1, and you want to start with like the smallest or the biggest niche that you can be the only player in the space. And you're trying to basically grow from like a niche and then it can expand out from there. When you talk about Bitcoin and like selling Bitcoin, like this is going to be the most common commodity on the planet. It's going to have more value, more sellers than anything that we've ever seen, right? So like, I wouldn't invest in that as a VC, right? Or you shouldn't invest in that. And then, so that's interesting. But, rules are made to be broken. And when you have something that has, that's the best product of all time, which is literally taking bad money and exchanging it for good money. And then you have a market, that I think in today's purchasing power, where Bitcoin is the best tool for the job, it's like $400 trillion bucket of store of value. It's a pretty big market. Usually don't believe founders that are like, well, I just want to get a tiny slice of this massive market, but it's actually true when it comes to Bitcoin.
All the money.
I mean,
you guys,
it's all of it.
So I'm out here in Europe right now. So I'm not using, unfortunately, I'm not using.
Barely.
Yeah, I'm not using Swan as much as I'd like to be.
Or Strike.
I actually can use strikeout here. Interestingly, I can use strikeout.
Yeah, because you're cheating, man.
I went back to the United States, and for some reason I can use it. So I don't know why. But my question is about Swan. Last I understood, you guys don't use Lightning Network yet. Is Lightning Network is that on the roadmap for
yeah. So I think, I mean, basically what has to happen, because we don't touch customer funds, we need Fireblocks and Prime Trust to support Lightning, to be able to actually like withdraw via Lightning. Yeah. That'll happen. That'll just happen, when this bull market just like takes off and fees go up, and they'll be like, oh, okay. Like they just started doing batching, or it's like on their roadmap to start doing batching. They don't worry about it when it's 30 cents or whatever, but when that starts to get expensive, they'll start doing that. So I think batching either turned on last week or it's coming here in a week or two. And eventually Lightning will have its, the same logic. They'll do it to cut costs. In the meantime, a bunch of the individual team members have Lightning nodes. Swan has a Lightning node, or a Lightning channel, and we're trying to connect to people and mess around with ClubNet and the whole deal. And we're going to start doing the referral program. So the Swan Force referrals will be payouts via Lightning. So at least we can do that because we control that. That's just us.
Okay, I have a question. In this space, we have the tendency to repeat ourselves over and over again about different subjects, and also at the same time,
Cory, in this space, we have the tendency to repeat ourselves over and over again. And at the same time, wait, oh shit, Yellow got muted. Sorry, go ahead.
You potato head. Anyway, at the same time, a lot of new bullish news are coming every day. We see, like today I saw about the Navajo Nation like adopting Bitcoin and stuff. Like, so what's one current like subject that you saw and made you extremely bullish, and what's that one thing that you are fed up with, like talking over and over again, I guess?
I mean, I can't think of a topic that I'm sick of talking about that's bullish for Bitcoin. That doesn't happen. It's an insatiable well of goodness when I'm talking bullishly about Bitcoin.
Really?
I don't know.
Nothing?
No. Like all true things make me bullish.
All right, speaking of bullish then, what's I've heard scuttlebutt this week about some super large...
Nothing?
Oh my god.
Hello, for fuck's sake, we talked about this.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We can get into it. It doesn't matter. Like I said, because obviously, if you can roll back the tape, I said all true things make me bullish because I knew that was coming. It's very obvious. That was some junior open mic joke setup. It was very obvious.
But, man was ready.
Yeah, I'm very ready for you guys. It doesn't really matter anymore. Honestly, I really don't give a shit. I will say that, when somebody kind of digs themselves a hole and is kind of like tied to something, it's really hard to go back on it and like undo kind of what you've done, especially when you feel like, everybody believes they're a good person and is trying to do the right thing. And, if you're actually into Bitcoin, the proof of work is like moving beyond that. And I think looking at like Rob Breedlove continue to work really hard on Bitcoin every day since his BitClout thing has made me, because I know Rob, like we're not like homies, but like I know him pretty well, and like I care about him, and I think he's working his ass off in service of Bitcoin. And that made me take a look back at Plan B and actually look, okay, what's he done since the first model was exposed as a fraud? And yes, he fought that, and I understand that, as Rob fought for himself, because it's very hard to have that cognitive dissonance of like, oh shit, I did something bad, I did something wrong. And not many people actually get to the point of like full contrition. It's really difficult to get to full contrition when you fuck up. I think it's human. I think it's human to want to just move on and not necessarily like beg on the altar of forgiveness for everything that you've done wrong. And for me, if somebody continues to work hard for Bitcoin and to proselytize Bitcoin every day which I've now watched Plan B, you know, from blocked, but I got all the accounts too, motherfuckers. I've watched him continue to like try to put out good, helpful stuff. I totally disagree with not just him, but like a lot of people that put out, you know, all kinds of like trading stuff all the time, because I think he's really just kind of, you know, basically getting clout from talking about price signals and stuff. But there are other people that I like, where if I leave aside the personal conflict with Plan B, I'm not dragging those people over the coals. So it makes me a bit of a hypocrite to continue to like hate on Plan B more when we had our thing like over a year ago, and I'm not taking these other people that are doing all this, you know, clickbait, on-chain analytics, let's trade but not trade. Hold on, wait, I gotta have that guy on again because it's my highest episode. Better have the trading shit again.
I think you came out a winner in that, though. You ended up with an entire clothing line.
I did get this Cory thing launched, but I haven't seen a stat from that.
And you won't
it's not going to happen.
It's okay. It's okay. But yeah, that's kind of where I am. I mean,
Actually, I take that back. I'm a Swan
models,
customer, so you're saying something.
You see, I'm a Swan customer too.
I actually thought you were on our engineering team, so at least you're a customer.
Yeah, where are my stats? That's right.
Anyway, I think we can put a pen in it. Like, honestly, if the dude hit me up and wanted to talk about something unrelated to his models, I'd talk to him about it. I don't really give a shit anymore.
So,
Nice.
Yellow, did you have something to say?
No. I'm sorry, guys.
All right,
It's
so
like the bad little monster.
So, Cory, I know you're plugged in, man. I've heard scuttlebutt this week about a super huge OTC desk purchase, and nobody's saying who it is other than it's a big player. And I wanted to see if you had any insight into what's going on over the weekend. A big OTC purchase.
I have no idea. I
No.
don't know anything about it.
Okay.
Hadn't even heard that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they didn't buy through us.
Well, you're not an OTC desk, or are you?
No, we are.
You are.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider all that private client stuff. I would consider that to be OTC, basically.
Okay.
Do you mind for some of, you know, we have a lot of people that watch. Well, we don't have, not a lot.
No, we don't.
We have some people that watch.
There's almost a dozen of them.
There's dozens.
Yes.
There's literally dozens.
Dozens. Would you maybe mind explaining a little bit how an OTC purchase even happens?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, OTC is just an acronym for over the counter, and it basically means that you're going to like communicate with a human to place a trade, and it's not going to happen on an exchange. In fact, actually, that's not true. You can actually do it via like online interface as well. So you can actually interface with Cumberland or Jump via an online interface as well. But you just don't have an exchange. And so they'll usually have either request for quote or like a streaming quote or something like that, where you say like, I'm looking to buy X amount of Bitcoin, either denominated in Bitcoin or dollars. They'll quote you a price. It'll either be good for like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds or something like that. They're going to bake in a little bit of a spread there for, just for price risk while they're quoting you a price. More and more, you're seeing them move towards streaming quotes, where you basically like just lock it in like a market order. And so they're streaming a price constantly, and you can just like lock it in whenever. But that's basically it. It's just, you're not going into an exchange interface. You're saying like, I want to buy Bitcoin. Usually people use it for like larger size. What an OTC desk will do is, if you're buying a lot, and you probably heard this described, by Michael Saylor, they'll deploy the buy over a period of time, and that way you don't move the price on the exchanges whether you're buying.
Okay.
So if I say like, you're not going to move the price much on these like fairly liquid exchanges with even a buy of like, 500 grand or $1 million. But if you're going to buy like 10 million bucks, you probably want to buy like, 0.1 of a Bitcoin, every 2 minutes over 3 days or something like that.
Like Saylor does.
Bingo. Yeah. So he had, I think Coinbase did, basically gave him a target range for accumulation, and they, bought every second or every 3 seconds over 3 days or something like that for some of these bigger buys.
That's
So you're not gonna tell us who did the big buy?
Well, actually, it was our Swan China affiliate, and it was Xi Jinping himself. Actually,
Correct.
I wouldn't be surprised.
150 nuclear Bitcoin miners. All for Bitcoin mining.
150 nuclear reactors, right, coming online. What are they going to do with them?
Are we changing our accounts to Chinese again?
Again? I didn't do that.
Yeah. Labra.
What?
Is Labra here, or is he in the laboratory?
Let me raise.
Laboratory.
This isn't space, it's Labra.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, Ardi is not here, so I'm going to ask the question. One of his questions. I will try to imitate his accent.
Okay.
Cory, do you love Bitcoin, mate?
No. Do the other question.
Do the other one.
Okay. Who from the meme factory would you retweet, mute, and like?
Mute and like. Oh my God, that's a tough one. I don't like any of you, so pass on the last one.
Sweet.
We've done our job.
I'll probably mute Greg. And
Cory, before you go
retweet. Probably retweet Chair Forest the most.
Before you go on, check this here.
I like it.
Before you answer, you're gonna retweet.
By the way, so this is a good place to, I mean, you guys, if anybody's gonna meme it and make it real, but I was thinking that over the next couple of decades, the proper pejorative for US dollars, to really just shit on it all the time, would be to call it US dildos.
We could do that.
USDs, US dildos.
Yep.
US dildos?
I think that would work.
I like that.
I thought of it yesterday.
Let's do it.
And then I was like, I don't care. I'm not going to put out the meme from the Swan handle.
Streaming does.
You guys can have it. It's okay.
That's what the Cory Klippsten handle is for. Full send, Cory. You're a great shit poster, whether or not you want to admit that.
Yeah, he is.
I am, but I'm not as good with the visuals, which is why I started. Everything I started is like just totally selfish, by the way. Arsenal was just because I wanted people to make memes when I could just like describe them. And so that's how I used it for like a year. I would just like write things and then people would like make a meme for me that I could post.
It worked out.
Bitcoiner Jobs was just literally me not being able to say yes to people that wanted jobs. And I was like, I hate saying no to people because I like to be liked. I'm human. And we needed some way to like get those people jobs for me to be able to like say no without saying no. I can just like paste a URL and they can go get a job. Anyway, that's usually me.
It's good. If you're being selfish, it means there's at least a one-person market for it.
It's a marketplace of one at least. So anyway, Big Sean, were you aware of the basketball team that we're building at Swan?
I am not aware of this basketball.
Not privy to that one.
Did you know Cory's a fan of basketball?
I am a fan of basketball.
I mean, who isn't? Who isn't a fan of basketball?
Yeah,
I think it's pretty good.
Takes one to know one, Chair Force.
So Armani, who's on our marketing team, has been playing pro ball for years in Norway. He's playing pro ball in Panama right now. Played at Yale, led them in rebounding 2 years. Ryan Flynn, I think, started at Davidson. He's one of our sales guys. I played my whole life, obviously, like all through high school. I couldn't walk on at Mizzou. A little bit out of my league, but you know, won the. Big 10. We were Big 12 back then. Now they're SEC. But you know, I won like the 3-point contest, got second in 3-on-3, won the 5-on-5. Like played pretty seriously. Like Quidham is actually really good from what I hear. Played all through high school.
I mean, he's
Brady,
like 6'8". Of course, he's good.
Quidham is very tall.
Wait, he's
he's so tall.
He's 6'3".
It's the mushrooms.
It's the mushrooms.
Yeah.
You're eating those ones that make you grow.
He eats the Mario mushrooms. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so even Dave, we hired a controller from Philly, a Korean dude. And I'm like, sweet, we got a nerd. And like on his second week, he's like, sore on Monday. I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, oh, dude, we just took third in the national like Korean men's basketball tournament over the weekend. And I was like, of course you did. Like, we can't even hire finance people to dump ball.
All ballers at Swan Bitcoin. That's I like it.
Yeah,
Even Camilla Campton's been known to play some basketball in her day. I'm just making that up.
Eric Camilla, absolutely. I mean, my ranking is basically like Jordan, Camilla, LeBron.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good ranking. Elaborate.
Okay.
I can play basketball now.
Yeah.
Labra, quick.
Yeah, I can play basketball too.
I love it.
Corey, you clearly.
Maybe I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to come out to the Swan headquarters if there are headquarters, and ball a little bit sometime in the summer.
Definitely, yeah. Come out to LA. We'll do a little game together.
Why don't you guys do a like a charity match or something?
We should.
Swan.
It really may not be fair though, because we also have like Baron Davis is one of our investors, and so is Della Vadova. So we at least have like a really strong backcourt.
I do know that Jack loves to play basketball, and he's pretending to be very good, and Jack Muller. So
you say he's pretending to be very good?
Yes, don't tell him. Okay.
Mouse in the house with Jack Mullers.
Yeah, just do a charity, man. I would love to see that streamed.
That would be awesome.
Maybe we'll get a little court going at the Bitcoin conference in April.
So it's interesting. I actually stay out in Salt Lake in the summertime because I played up at Utah State. And one summer, Baron Davis was out there and he was working out some of the jazz guys. And we had an open gym. And some of my buddies who played at Utah State, we had a team of 5. And Baron Davis was playing with a couple of the jazz guys. It was Donovan Mitchell's first year, right when he got drafted from Louisville. And we were playing against Donovan Mitchell, against Dante Exum, Baron Davis, another guy for the Jazz, and then another college guy. We lost the first game, and then we won the next 2 games against them. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That was fun.
That's baller. Well, you can be on our team then.
Yeah.
Corey, I'm curious. I know you like. I know you like reading. I see you've got your library back there behind you, or at least some of your library.
No, this is a fake background. Actually, I just superimposed Raul's background.
And opened the door.
And opened the door to the Bitcoin. Yeah.
CGI on point.
Yeah.
Do you have any? What are your favorite books for new coiners and pre-coiners?
I mean, I honestly like my favorite Bitcoin book is Inventing Bitcoin, and it was the reason that I hunted Jan down and over time convinced him to join the company. I just thought it's the best kind of framing and stacking that and I think it's based on how he actually put the thing together. Like the analogies are so good because he taught Bitcoin for a year in Chicago public schools because his wife is like a teacher or something, and this was after he retired from selling reverb.com or whatever. And so he was teaching in public schools. And so like he chooses the one that got over the best with the most people in every case. And like the framing and the stacking of the chapter orders and everything is just so good. And it's so boiled down like a good engineer would do. It's like maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes to read the thing or listen to it. And I just love giving that book away. So that's probably my favorite. And then, I think, we got something coming out from Swan very soon that I think will be explosive for Bitcoin education that I'm really excited about. It's like a proper product that we're putting out, but you guys will see that soon.
Okay. I think Labra did something explosive a little earlier tonight, but I'm very happy to hear that Swan's got something explosive on the horizon as well. I'm excited.
Yes. I can tee you up for punchlines all day long, right? Did you guys know that based on calorie content and how filling a food is, that the potato is the most filling food that humans eat?
I'm so full
than any kind of meat.
This
Greg
is true.
The most filling food there is.
The most.
Yep.
It's almost overfilling. in some cases.
Where did
Greg,
the
Greg's
potatoes start? Did that start with Chair Force or Yellow?
There's
I
a
can't
such thing
No,
as,
yellow.
There's a
Yellow.
such thing as too much potato. You know that one time when you brought Sailor into the chat? That's when the potato thing started.
and then
You
you
fucking
Taylor
potato.
out of. And then you
I
kicked
immediately
him out.
removed him, though. I removed him. By the way, he's referring to a chat that doesn't exist.
Does not exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yellow. First time I heard him say potato was when he rated Pubby's meme on Toxic Happy Hour, and then he called you a potato.
Yes.
In that instance.
Yes.
And then it just stuck, and we took it to mainstream Twitter
You really did.
or the outwards Twitter, and then it stuck. Just like fuck you, Greg.
Just like fuck you.
It was simply Bitcoin. Simply Bitcoin.
It was simply Bitcoin. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
All right, Cory. We want to respect your time here. We're coming up on the hour. I want to make sure that you get a chance to shill anything you have coming up that you might want to let anybody know about. You already did the. We already talked about Tomer strobe lights video. Yes, I said strobe light.
It's not strobe light, you fucking potato.
It's strobe light. It's strobe light. Everybody knows it's strobe light. Pedro, sorry.
It isn't.
Exactly.
So Brady and I have a book coming out called Bitcoin, Your Bright Orange Future, which is our attempt as two people to try to do better than Jan did.
Ooh.
It's a high bar, but it's a little bit more. It's just a different slice. It evolved from the original Give Bitcoin 12 chapters that we wrote back in like 2019, early 2020 for we gave Bitcoin to somebody. It was locked up for a year, and you got like a chapter of the book every month for the year, and then your Bitcoin unlocks, and supposedly you're supposed to know something about Bitcoin. Anyway, we shelved that product because people buy a lot more Bitcoin for themselves than they do for other people, it turns out. But the book has evolved, and we've learned so much more about what works, especially going through the process of actually talking to tens of thousands of people to try to sell them Bitcoin. So I think we've got something that is basically all the best order, the best stacking, the best analogies, and just I think it'll be good. There's a lot of different things that you can recommend, but some people will like this and we'll recommend it and we'll use it, and we'll try to get that out. I think we'll get it out in maybe January. So that'll be fun. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, I'm excited that the MAG folks agreed to give Bitcoiner Jobs a space at the conference, and so we're gonna blow it out. And Dave and I and the whole squad over there and on our side are gonna work to make sure there's like a whole kind of job fair vibe going on. So I think that's pretty exciting. And then I guess the last thing is, Brecky is a freaking, I don't know if he was a fine arts major or a film major. Anyway, he did a lot of film when he was at Penn back in the day. He's been living in LA for a long time, making movies and stuff. So he's harassed me and bludgeoned me enough times that we let him start Swan Studios, which is why you've seen this Machine Greens presented by Swan and this new one from Tomer. So we're renting like an office with a studio space and building sets, and we're going to be doing like much higher quality content out of that. So that should be pretty cool.
Excellent.
And he's actively like, his brother works at UTA, and I've raised money from UTA and ICM and CAA and all these guys over the years for different things. So I think we'll actually take advantage. Like if we're stuck in SoCal and no Bitcoiners want to be here and we're like, behind enemy lines, like at least we're going to take advantage of what is here, which is, the culture is the number one export of this place. And we're going to start taking advantage of being in LA, at least those of us that are here. So we'll see what develops there.
Exciting stuff. I got one quick final question. Will you be at the conference this time so that we get to meet you?
Ooh.
I think so. I think people who know me well know that I'm dealing with a lot of family health issues out here on the West Coast. And that sort of prevents me from doing a lot of business travel for the time being, because when I leave for family stuff up in Seattle, it means that I'm leaving my wife with 2 kids and no help. So I've been trying to minimize business travel for the last year plus. So we'll see. We'll see if we're at a steady state, but I'm certainly going to try.
Awesome. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, but we are starting to do more stuff out in LA, and we're going to have an office now, and we'll probably start, proper LA meetups and things like that. So at least anybody that gets out here will be able to hang out with me.
Cory, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you.
We
My
appreciate
pleasure,
your time.
Plan B. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, boy.
Check out the show notes if you need to find Cory anywhere. If you need to find a Bitcoiner job, or if you need to see any of the projects he's currently working on, you can check out the show notes. Thanks again. Have a good night.
Thanks, Cory. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Cory.
Right.